Assalamualaikum and good greetings. So today I will be watching a video by JetLag Warriors. This YouTuber basically recorded his travel experience, and in the recent months he has been traveling around Malaysia. So that's how I stumbled upon this YouTube channel some time back, and then I watched some of the video trying food in many Malaysian part of Malaysia, etc. But this video is titled First Time Experience at a Conservative Islamic Wedding in Kelantan, which is a state in Malaysia travel vlog. So it is still his travel vlog, but this is centered about conservative Islamic wedding in Kelantan. So given that I have mentioned something about marriage in one of the previous reaction video, about the status of dating in Islam. So I'm interested to see what he is going to be sharing about this conservative Islamic wedding in Kelantan. So without further ado, let's watch the video.
Alright everybody, welcome to Min House Camp in Kelantan, Malaysia. Probably one of the best accommodations Ivana and I have ever stayed at, but more on that later in future videos. This video is about our experience at a very conservative Islamic Malaysian wedding, and so the story is just my experience there being a non-conservative Islamic Malaysian, obviously. So we're staying at Min House Camp. The owner of the accommodation says there's a wedding here tomorrow, you're invited, would you like to come? Sounds great. So the wedding is just down the walkway here at the rec center. Starts at 7:30 p.m. Okay, so I put on a semutar and a batik shirt. This is like the best I can do for Malaysian weddings. I don't know really what to wear. Go down there with Ivana and two of our other friends. So there's four of us together, foreigners, first time experiencing this. So we walk in and women are on one side and men are on the other side. Everybody's sitting on the floor, and obviously I would be nervous at any wedding, especially if I don't know anybody, but I'm getting very nervous because I'm just dressed differently and I look differently and I'm just not used to this type of thing. So I see the imam in the front who's reading what I would guess are passages from the Quran. I'm thinking, okay, at a Christian wedding there would be a priest in the front reading passages from the Bible. These are similar things. I can try and make myself more comfortable.
So he is from a Christian background, I think. So he tried to relate from what he is familiar with to what he is seeing, I think. Of course, from seeing the images so far, it is a conservative wedding. In terms of if you have seen many wedding in Malaysian Muslim wedding, this is I don't know. I do not know the exact location, but it is because you can see Muslim wedding that is more. I don't want to say lavish, but you know, I mean, this one is just like a simple, you know, within the community wedding.
There's a very beautiful youngster girl, beautifully dressed on the right, kind of got ants in her pants and jumping around, smiling at me, laughing at me, making me feel more comfortable. We're laughing together. So I ask, can I go a little closer? And everyone is like, yes, yes, please. So I go to where the men are and I move a little closer. And they're like, sit here. They're like, wait, if you sit over there, you can have a better angle for your camera. They're being really helpful. I'm still feeling nervous. I got a semutar and a batik shirt on. I'm so nervous that I forgot to change the settings on the camera, so a lot of the footage is grainy. Sorry about that. But I noticed a woman come and put some sort of flower on the table. Okay, wondering what the meaning of that is. A prayer starts, and I'm feeling awkward. I'm not sure.
I think that is more of an aesthetic thing, you know, so that the table seems more aesthetically pleasing or something.
If I should do this with my hands as a non-Muslim, I'm like just kind of there and I'm filming and I'm like feeling awkward, feeling overwhelmed. The prayer ends. The groom signs what I would assume is a marriage certificate.
So yeah, he just mentioned a prayer, right? Where the hand gesture there. That is a doa, right? So in one of the video that I react to recently about a Muslim become a Christian, I think. Right there's I mentioned a bit about what is the different type of prayer, because the English word is prayer, but in Islamic teaching there's different type, salah, doa, etc. Right? So that prayer is a doa.
I was expecting, or I would have guessed, the bride would also sign, but instead the bride's father signs, which is not so foreign to me. In a Christian wedding, the bride's father will walk with her down the aisle, and then she will kind of continue walking away from him to go to the groom. So there's some imagery of, like, you know, giving your daughter away. I'm like, okay. The groom thanks everybody, or most of the people with him, all his friends and family, and then he gets up and he makes his way towards the women's section. At this point, I haven't seen the bride yet because I haven't really got a good angle to look at the women, and I'm kind of focusing on the imam and where the, you know, ceremony is. But once the groom gets up and goes over...
Oh, so this is already meaning that the akad nikah is already finished. Meaning that because the groom is already, meaning go to the father-in-law basically, right? And you know, so meaning it's already, they already officially become husband and wife. So because I didn't realize that he mentioned about the actual ceremony of whether he didn't realize that is the pivotal point, because it doesn't seem that significant, right? It's just seem like a conversation, akad nikah, right?
I noticed that everybody's kind of on their feet and getting closer. Like, now is the beautiful part. Now is the important part. Everybody's got their cell phones. There's like 20 or 30 cell phones recording this part. And the groom puts his hand on the bride's head, and I'm like...
So yeah, this is already, they have already become husband and wife, obviously. You cannot do this before that, right?
It's happening here. Everyone is filming this. This is like it. But I don't know what it is. So I asked people I'm with, some of the locals there, and they're like, this is the first time the groom has ever touched the bride. And so felt like I wasn't prepared for that information. Obviously, that's so different anything I'm used to at a wedding or any sort of lifestyle, and I'm happy for them. The energy is so happy, and I'm happy for them, but at least a little bit of me is like trying to imagine what that would be like, and just kind of unable to even come up with anything. It's so different than what I'm used to that I can't even imagine what that was like. And I remember thinking, imagine the commitment it would take to not be allowed to touch your spouse until you were married. Not be allowed. And then, okay, that ceremony's over and everybody's on their feet and pictures and
that is the interesting part about, yeah, then it can be understood why it seems very conservative, right, from the perspective of an outsider, right? Because what he mentioned is quite interesting to me. Trying not to ever touch your spouse until after marriage, right? Because from my own perspective, it's never even, there's no trying there, because you are not preventing, oh, I cannot touch, because that is never been an issue, because you don't even touch any woman at all, right? Because I think from a different culture, right, when it is common that you shake hand, at least the touching is shake hands, etc., or normal touch, normal from that perspective, right? From Muslim perspective, that's not normal. You cannot even just what type of touch, not even a sexual touch, just normal touch from outside, it's not normal to us, right? So it's never even a question of trying not to touch your partner, because we don't even have that common thing from the beginning, right? There's no touching between men and women at all, right? So yeah, that's why there's no, Because some people do ask me, how do you try not to? There's no trying even involved, right? Because there's no urge. Yeah, there's no trying involved, right? So yeah.
Everybody's mingling and talking and having a good time. And I happened to have a conversation with the bride's mother, who is like an amazing lady, so helpful and knowledgeable and just a sweetheart. She really, really reminded me of my mom at my sister's wedding. So my mom being the mother of the bride and her being the mother of the bride, this like permanent smile on her face, so happy and just thanking everybody and just trying to take care of things, and really, really great lady. So talking to her, obviously her face is not covered. She's not as conservative with Islam.
Okay, so the conservative is the face covering, the niqab, I think, because yeah, the bride is having that face cover, right? So I guess if, because the way he said it right now, the mother do not have that covering, so meaning it's not as conservative. So perhaps that conservative referring to that, right? Because the bride is covering her face.
So I'm asking a little bit about that, and she says, oh, this was my daughter's choice. My daughter went to school, fell in love with the religion, fell in love with studying it, chose to go to study it even more, like in university. She loves the religion, and this is her choice to have a wedding this way, to dress this way, to have this level of commitment. And so it kind of hit me in that moment when I was thinking, imagine the commitment it would take to not be allowed to touch your spouse. It's not.
So again about that, right? So yeah, because I personally cannot even understand why is it such a commitment, right? Because but thinking about it, because if it's a normal for you to touch male and female for non-sexual touching, right? Shake hands or even just friendly hug, whatever, right? Because in Muslim we don't have none of that. So it does suddenly for your spouse, you cannot touch before even any touch, right, before marriage. So it does take commitment, I guess, because you have to stop yourself every time. But from a Muslim perspective, if you are practicing Muslim, that's not even part of your life, so it's not trying to anything, right? It's, yeah, even though I have to note that if you take, but many Muslims do not have, you know, that kind of commitment to Islam, I guess. So yeah, that's the reality. Many Muslims do not observe that commitment, unfortunately, from my perspective.
Allowed, it's more accurately, imagine the commitment it would take if you chose and you felt it was the right thing to do to not touch your spouse until you were married. And so that conversation with the bride's mom kind of switched with me. And so we come back to here in this dining area. We have some food, there's some pictures. We got a picture with the bride and groom, who were like so gracious. Got to meet them. He's 24 years old. He's so happy. One thing I noticed that was so similar to weddings I'm familiar with was this guy was so happy. His face was smiling the whole time. He was excited and nervous and happy. We had some great food here. And then I figured the wedding was over. Everybody was leaving. We went to bed. Yvonne and I kind of talked about how beautiful that was and just what a learning experience and how great it was. We go to bed. We wake up in the morning. And the wedding is night until morning. So people are still here in the morning. More really, really great food. Meeting more people. Talking to more people.
Okay, yeah. So it's not really night until morning, right? I think because normally the ceremony itself, the akad nikah, the actual wedding, happen within close family circle, etc. So they actually are, interestingly, they allowed access to that, right? Because normally that's for close members, family, etc., right? And then they have also the food there to those who attended. But in the daytime, the next day is normally to invite all of the community members to just to celebrate together, eat some food for the wedding ceremonies, right? And in terms of the Islamic teaching, that is for, how to say, for everyone to know that this marriage have taken place, right? So that afterwards, because if you understand from the perspective of Muslim men and women do not mix together, you know, even touching, etc. And then suddenly, if they got married, and then people say, wait, what are you doing? Why are you touching hands, etc.? So there must be a ceremony that announce to the world these two people have been married to one another, right? So that is to avoid those confusion, and suddenly when people see afterwards, oh, that is husband and wife, so that's why they're holding hands, etc.
And in the morning, the bride and groom were wearing blue instead of white. I'm not sure what the symbolism is there. I'm sure there's something, but more picture opportunities, more talking opportunities. I noticed that at Malaysian weddings, it seems like an entire family will wear the same type of clothes that all matches, and I kind of like that. I wish we could adopt that in Canada. One of the boring parts of Canadian weddings or Christian weddings is it's just suit and tie. All the men are the exact same: black jacket, white shirt, black tie. They all look the same. So if every family had their own, style, where I'll wear this type of suit, my two sons will wear this type of suit, my wife will wear this dress that matches me, and our daughter will wear one that matches her. I thought that was a very neat thing. I thought that could be something trendy that catches on in Canada, where every family has their own color or style or pattern or whatever. But
yeah, that is interesting, right? Why is it somewhat of a culture, if you want to call it that the marriage is always like, the suit and the tie, etc.? Or is there any marriage as well in the western part of the world that is different than that? I'm not sure.
What a great experience overall. We finished up eating here, and then everybody left, and it was just an amazing experience. It was kind of a roller coaster of emotions, from like so nervous to be there. I felt like everyone's looking at me. Obviously everyone's looking at the bride and groom, but I just felt like out of place, like, oh my gosh, I'm embarrassed. And then being welcomed in, and then just seeing this idea, just kind of being face to face with this idea of not touching your spouse until you're married.
So that is, I think, the third time or more that point is being highlighted, because that it seems that is the most shocking thing to him. This is interesting to me.
And just being like overwhelmed and confused and like, man, I can't even imagine it. And then to learning more and being able to see the Canadian or the familiar Western Christian aspects, or similarities at least, between the groom being so happy, the bride's mom being just so helpful and just so happy and proud, obviously the commitment and the signing.
He did mention several times already the groom being happy, and that's similar. I think that would be obvious, right? Why would anyone getting married not being happy? Of course, I think he do not manage to mention the bride, because you cannot see the happiness because it's veiled, right? So you cannot see she keeps smiling all the time, right? So yeah. So otherwise he would obviously say the same thing about the bride.
Also the similarities of, I think the bride and groom were legally married when they signed, but that wasn't really the moment. The moment was when he touched her for the first time, similar to the weddings I'm familiar with, where they're legally married when they sign, but the moment is when the ring goes on. That's the moment you get the photo of, that's the moment you remember. It's not the signing, it's just kind of, paperwork. But just similarities between the two of them, and in the end I felt more welcome and more at home and more, comfortable, and not so, I guess in the end we could focus on the similarities more than the differences. I could, at least. The people were just amazing. I mean, everyone there was so nice to me. All of the insecurity and nervousness I was feeling was just because of me. It wasn't because someone was making me feel that way. And in the end, it'll be a travel experience that certainly never forget. It's right up there with some of the best travel experience in my life. When will I ever get the opportunity to be just at a wedding that I would never normally be at, and wasn't planning on going? Just the owner says, wedding tomorrow, do you want to come? Absolutely. And it's like a life-changing, eye-opening experience. So these are the reasons you travel. I think I speak for Yvonne and I both, when this is why we travel, is to do things where you never imagined yourself doing it, you never really couldn't even imagine what it's like, and then all of a sudden you have this eye-opening experience. So in the end, thanks for watching our video, everybody. I'm obviously not breaking any ground, any new ideas, but just learning as I go, and really glad to do it. So special thanks to the bride and the groom for inviting us. Special thanks to Min House Camp for having such a great facility, and special thanks to Malaysia for continually impressing in the travel department. There it is, guys. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, that is interesting sharing, if you may. I think I have said what I wanted to say about my reaction to what he said, about a lot of it about mind-blowingness of the fact that that is the first time they ever touch one another. And if you think about it, that touch is not even to skin, right? Because actually the what happened there when the groom put the hand on what do you call it, you can see it on the head of the bride, right? So basically he is making a prayer, a certain of a prayer, right, to bless this relationship, etc., right? So that's how it is taught, right? So you just, and then beside the dua, the prayer, that Allah bless this relationship going forward, right? So because I think that's how conservative it is, you know, quote unquote. Because I think for Malay wedding it is normal, because here I think it is not there, of you know, putting the ring to the finger, or you know, shake hands. Do you call it shake hands? And shake hand, and then the wife now you know, kiss the hand of the husband, etc. Those are more common custom that tend to happen in a wedding, in a Malay wedding, that is not there, right? So because for those Muslim that you know, quote unquote again, conservative, they do that not in front of the public, right? So that's between them, yeah, right? So that's not to be publicized. It's not for all to see. It's for them to really, you know, between them, and special moment between them, etc. Wallahu alam. So I think that's about it for this video. It is interesting to watch and react to. I did mention in the previous video, one of the previous video, when the topic of marriage come out, maybe sometime in the future I would actually share my whole perspective about relationship, why there's no such thing as dating before marriage, the concept of marriage, and my personal experience. I'm not sure anyone would be interested in my personal experience, but yeah, if anyone is interested, I might do that. But until then, thank you for watching. See you next time.